Welcome to the kingdom. I'm Chris, and this is Good Enough Gaming. All right, everybody. Welcome back to this episode of the Line of Sight podcast, where we want to get different perspectives on wargaming, tabletop gaming, the hobby, all that kind of good stuff. Today, my guest is the man and the voice behind ULC Battle Reports. I'm sure if any of you are into one-page rules for more than just a little bit and have looked it up online, you will have definitely come across his videos. So thank you very much for joining us. I look forward to a great conversation here. So
Thanks.
let me start off with the same question that I always do. Tell us, how did you get into tabletop wargaming?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on your podcast. Um, it's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, how did I get into wargaming? I guess we'll have to go several years back. Um, I caught the interest of the good old fighting fantasy books. Uh,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Yeah, we're going way back then.
we are way back here. Uh,
Okay.
Almost. No, not from the beginning, because I guess from the release in the American and English markets and to Denmark, there was a couple of years. But the fighting fantasy books showed up here in Danish, and I was hooked. I played them with a buddy, and one of us read the books, and the other one was the player. And the next step was to get into RPG, Dungeons and Dragons, and we had a gaming group at that time. We had a lot of fun playing Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. And then we also started playing board games. And the first one that comes to my mind was Blood Bowl. So that was my first step into Games Workshop and the world of miniatures. You had to get your Blood Bowl team painted up and ready for battle on the pitch. And well, I was into that and other board games as well. Not so much war games and tabletop with big battles and stuff like that, but went on for a couple of years, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, I don't know why, it just stopped, and I had a break, a really long break for many, yeah, decades.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I have always been into fantasy and reading horror and fantasy books and watching movies. I collect figures. I do a lot of stuff, hobby stuff. And then a couple of years back, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, I thought, why not go back and try some new board games? And I looked mostly on board games that you can play co-op or solo, because at my age and in my situation, if I depend on anybody to play along with me, it would just take too much time to organize and get people together. So I have a couple of daughters, and I try to get them into board gaming as well. So we started playing Zombicide, and that was a lot of fun. And then it slowly came back to me. I wanted the miniatures painted. I wanted to learn new stuff. It was somewhere between the 8th and ninth edition of Warhammer, I guess. So I started to explore um, the war game more, and and then I noticed one-page rules, and I had just like, wow, 2 pages, and you do not have to read through. I know there is lore now and a lot of stuff and a background, and it's cool, but at that time it was 2 pages, and then you are ready to go, and that really got me into producing videos, playing games, and it just went on from there. So that's where we are now.
Okay, great. Oh, great. So, yeah, you got into it when you were very young. I remember those fighting fantasy books. I remember in my school library they purchased like 4 or 5 of them, and there was this massive wait list because all the guys, at least all the boys, wanted them. So you had to put your name on a list and wait till they finished. And so the kid who was lucky enough to convince his parents to actually just go buy them their own copy was king of the classroom. So yeah,
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
absolutely with you. I'm absolutely with you on there. Those, and I tried to get my kids into them too, just like you. I've tried to pass on my love of fantasy and gaming and stuff to my kids. But one of them, my son, he's more into the card games like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, stuff like that. That for some reason that never really grabbed me. Do you dabble in it? Well, actually, that leads to a question. I know you play a lot of those Game in Your Pocket. So does that include the trading card games, or do you just like those ones?
That's mostly just the very small card games, and not the trading aspect, or where you have to get the
Deck
special
building?
cards or any. No, not yet.
Not yet.
Who
Well,
knows?
yeah. I mean, you started off reading fighting fantasy books and eventually got into full tabletop gaming. So who knows? But yeah, I'm absolutely with you. You try and pass it on to your kids, and my kids occasionally play something with me, just kind of like, well, I spend some quality time with dad, but they're not nearly as into it
Oh,
as
that
I am.
I that's the
But I did
same
want to
here.
say I tested out for everybody, anyone who might not be familiar with the channel, is he's taken the old rules for Death Ball. One Page Rules had a whole bunch of one-off games. Basically, if GW made a game, One Page Rules made a knockoff, and not all of those have made it into their new line of games. Now they're slowly introducing new ones like Quest and things like that, but they had a Blood Bowl alternative that that has a really cool update that you made, and I played it. I played a game both with my wife and my daughter, and they both had a blast. Now my younger daughter, she's asking me like every day, "Hey, can we play another game of it?" And so, I mean, it worked. It was something that got into. It was faster. It was faster paced. It was very easy to pick up. A 9-year-old was able to figure out the rules. She needed a little help. But is that your first time trying to adapt a game? Have you done that with anything else?
Oh, I think it was the first time I did some. Did a small 15 millimeter version of One Page Rules as well. It's not so much an adaptation as my Death Ball is, but yeah, I guess it was the first where I sat down, and again, a lot of my motivation behind the channel and the games is not small scale, but try to avoid the big setups, mostly because I don't have the space. So I have to play smaller battles, and also because my time is typically limited to maybe half an hour, or yeah, an hour.
Oh, wow.
And so I when I played One Page Rules, I played other huge board games like Sword and Sorcery, for example, that takes hours from you set up. I know you can walk away and go back, but I would like a game unlike Blood Bowl, and I love Blood Bowl, I have to add, but it also takes a lot of time. I know there's a faster version now, Blood Bowl 7s, but I think I needed something that's really fast, and you can set up and play a complete game, and you can also use campaign rules, evolve players between matches, and it won't take more than half an hour. So that was the idea behind the Death Ball rules.
I think you've actually filled quite a nice little niche as far as your YouTube channel, because I know I do longer videos. Usually my bear ups are 45 minutes to an hour, maybe a bit bigger than that. And I do have a lot of comments. They say, well, sometimes I don't want to sit down and watch a movie length film or video. And so these channels that are able to put out 20, 30-minute, short, but they're still complete. It's not like you're breaking up a big game, but from start to finish, smaller focus, smaller time thing. A lot of players and people who view it, they're actually looking for stuff like that. So you've managed to find a need that I I never knew even existed. So that was a good call.
Yeah, that was one of my ideas with the channel, and I still think that the long games where you really go in depth and it takes hours, it's just as fine, and I know there's an audience for that as well. But
Mm.
I guess that my best experience I had was to find battle reports maybe half an hour or so. It can also be too short. If you see a battle
Yeah.
report and it's over in 10 or 12 minutes, well, maybe not so exciting. So I try to aim on 20-25 minutes. I have a limit about half an
Yeah.
hour, and I have exceeded that a couple of times. But if the
Well, it's
game
that
is good,
interesting. Yeah, it's that balance you want to strike because yeah, the short ones where it's just a summary, like if it's just still shots and a summary, that can work for some people. But at the same time, I can't bring myself to watch some of those bat reps that are 3 and 4 hours long, where they just set up the cameras, turn them on, and then play a full game. I know some folks might love that, but for me, once your battle report is longer than the old Ten Commandments movie, you've gone a little too long there.
Yeah.
So no, it's good that there's that change there. So that actually brings me to another question. You said that it's a little more difficult finding people to play against. You got family, but they might not be as interested as you. So what is the tabletop gaming scene like in Denmark?
I guess overall, and I have not in-depth knowledge about it, I must admit, but I think it's pretty good.
Okay.
Nowadays, my city is too small to have a hobby store and a gaming store, so
Ah,
you have
okay.
I have to move. There is nowhere you can meet and play. No physical place or store you can do that. I can easily find one, but I have to drive maybe for 45 minutes or so to
Ah,
find one. And I could do that if I wanted. I have a couple of gamers here in my city, but we don't play the same games. We communicate, we exchange stuff, miniatures, but we don't really play together. And yeah, I know it sounds like a bad excuse, but I have a childhood buddy, and we decided to find get together for dinner somewhere in April, and we haven't found a date yet because we're so busy doing anything else. And I think it would be the same if I had to meet with someone and play occasionally. It would be just too rare, and I would lose my patience and play with my family or solo anyway. But that being said, I think there is a good community in Denmark. There are one page rules players and of course 40k players and board game players all over the country. I think when I look, for example, on other board game forums, and there are Danish board gamers and war gamers. We have the proud national manufacturer of army painter close by. I think they
oh,
do.
very good.
Yeah, and then not to talk about fighting fantasy a lot, but we have actually a very passionate group of fighting fantasy supporters. And not only do they reprint original titles with new chapters and twists in Danish, but we also get new releases approved by Ian Livingstone himself. So there is a fantasy hobby community in Denmark, and I think it's in good condition.
Yeah, yeah. If you're managed to keep those books going and even get new ones, official new books,
Yeah,
that's fantastic. You actually bring up a really interesting point there and I've had some of my viewers mention this on my channel, that they live in a semi-rural or small town setting that just isn't big enough to have a local gaming store. And so I imagine many of them have had the same difficulty as you. Is it's not that the desire is there, but how do you play when there's nobody else around you? Do you play much on Steam or use like Tabletop Simulator? Have you ever tried doing one page rules through that?
I haven't tried it. I've thought about it, and it could be a future option. But so far,
Not
I have
yet.
not really looked. No, not yet.
I know I don't know if you're familiar with One Page More or War Boss Fits, two other
Yeah,
channels that do a
yeah.
lot of one page rules stuff. Both of them did, with some of their viewers, they did a tabletop simulator. I think it did a tournament, like a full game. And I can definitely see the wisdom, especially for folks where geography is limiting them. It's just, I really love the physical aspect of these games. Actually holding and rolling the dice, painting the figures. And while I'm a big fan of video games, I don't know, it just seems like I want to keep the two separate. There's my video games, there's my tabletop games. I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Well, I
But
think we got our eyes open to a lot of options during the COVID times, where a lot of stuff suddenly could work online, and you don't have to be in the same room. But I completely agree with you. I just went on vacation, and I had a few gaming books, and you can roll dice on your phone if you want to, but it's not the same as having
Yeah.
them in your hand. And well, being at a swimming pool with dice is no good either. So
Or cards or paper or things of that. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely get that. So then let's talk a little bit about the channel. You mentioned you started a few years ago. What made you want to go from just I'll play these games solo to suddenly I'm going to record them and put them out there for other people to see? What was the motivation? What made you decide to want to start a channel?
That's a very good question.
Okay
I
then.
and I don't think I can give you a solid answer. I have two other YouTube channels
Oh, okay.
about other hobbies of mine. Um, as I mentioned earlier, I am a passionate figure collector, so I have another channel, and there's not so much new content at the moment because running several channels at one time is too much. So, but sometimes I just get caught up in something like gaming, for example, and it's not all I do, but it's when it comes to my spare time, hobby time, it's I invest a lot in a hobby, and a natural step for me is to look at other YouTube channels and see. I learned a lot, not only as entertainment where you watch games and that's fine, but also learning rules. And still, if I look at a channel and see a new game, I'm like, well, I have to try that. I have to look further into it. So I wanted to pass on entertainment, but also knowledge. And then I had three goals, and I'll see if I can remember them. One of the goals was about the time that I had to keep the 30-minute video length, and then I think I saw a lot of battle reports where I was simply confused by the camera movement. So I had a goal that I want a steady camera. I will not, it at least very rarely, move the camera by hand while I'm playing or rolling dice. And I don't think I can remember the third thing.
Well, I mean, the first two sound pretty good, and I'd say
Yeah,
from what I've seen, you've kept to your goals pretty well. I hear from a lot of the viewers I have, they're really split. Some really prefer the stationary camera, and because I mean, you're prone to motion sickness, I suppose, but sometimes the camera jostling around it can get a little irritating. Whereas on the other side, I've heard players say it gives it a slightly more feel like you're there, like it's you watching the game rather than someone else. Whereas the steady camera definitely implies the spectator type thing. So I can definitely see both sides of it.
yeah.
Um,
I try to mix that aspect of being in the game. I usually do that in the intros and between rounds, and also
yeah,
sometimes during the action to get that close to the action. But there are several ways to do it. I only have one way to do it. There are other ways that are completely fine, and where, yeah, that someone would prefer another type. And I get, luckily, I get feedback from my viewers, and that is almost always very very good and solid, and something I can use in the
yeah,
future.
yeah. I actually just experimented doing my first still camera battle report when I did one for Quest because
Yeah, and yeah,
what the first time I played Quest, I realized there is way too much back and forth to film it. I mean, people are going to get dizzy if I'm moving the camera. So I thought, all right, well, let's test out then just stationary, zoom in on the action, and then um, I actually had that separate camera to record the dice rolls, and that then brings a whole new level of complexity to the video because now you're editing two different streams and all that. But I will say it made the game. It was a little more enjoyable because I could focus on playing rather than trying to hold the camera and keep everything in the shot. And it made the game go a little faster, so I was able to get everything done quicker. So I can definitely see the benefits to both sides there. So what then plans do you have in the future for the channel? Just kind of continue where it is? Do you have projects you're working on, things you'd like to expand to? What's coming down the pipeline for ULC battle reports?
Yeah, at the moment, I have a few upcoming campaigns, and I've just released a couple of videos about Death Wizards. That was my latest game that I coincidence just saw, and then I thought I have to check it out. And luckily, the rule book for some of these games, they are not very expensive, so you can easily buy a rule book, read it, and then you can say, well, that's not me, and no harm done. But in the case of Death Wizards, I think it's a great rule set. So that's typically what happens with my channel, is that I see a game or notice a game and maybe decide to try it. And if it's not only good, but also something that you can film and produce and upload and other people can enjoy and it fits the channel, then I'll just do it. So I have always new games that I look up. I have a waiting list of games that I have to check out, and maybe
Mhm.
I'll some of them I'll forget about probably, and others I will try out. My newest
Well, no, I was going to say it's good that you just have it on a list. I actually go buy the darn game and add it to my pile of shame. So if you can just keep it on a list, good on you for that.
Yeah, that's one way to find new inspiration. Another way for me is simply by seeing a cool miniature or uh, something I want to introduce. It could be, for example, with Death Wizards, which is obviously about undead, and I have several undead miniatures. But after I read the rule book and made the first video, I think I have doubled my undead hordes, because now I think one of the most entertaining things you can do at the moment for me is to paint undead, and that can
Mhm.
change in the future. But I get the ideas from miniatures and sometimes also from stories I want to tell. I have a new video coming up in, yeah, maybe it'll be the coming upcoming weekend. That is a new campaign in Grimdark Future Firefight about a rat man. I think it was the only. Uh, I haven't played Ratman before on in Grimdark Future Firefight, so I think I have to do something about it. And I bought a miniature set with Ratman, and then I went from there. See what's the story about the Ratman, and that's the one I'm trying to tell. So it's a separate campaign with the one-page rules, campaign rules, where they get XP and maybe
Okay.
maybe die also during
Hopefully not.
the.
So
So it's
with
kind.
no, that's cool. Do you have particular companies that you like to focus on for your models? Because I know watching your battle reports, there's some I can clearly say, well, that's a GW, but there are other times you put models out on the table, and I look at it and think, I have never seen one of those before. So where do you get all of your models, and do you have some companies or model lines that you really, really gravitate to?
No, not really. I
Uh,
don't have any special when it comes to miniatures or terrain. For example, I use what I think is suits the battlefield the best. My battle mats and terrain and miniatures, they are from very different places, but most of my miniatures I have right now are from the secondary market. So I buy unpainted and sometimes painted, and then if they're painted good enough, I'll just put them on the battlefield right away. And in other cases, I paint them myself. And I have a 3D printer. It's not good enough to print miniatures, but it can easily print terrain. And then I just look for, yeah, for example, I saw, I think it's a German website with where you can buy miniatures, single miniatures. You don't have to buy several at a time.
oh, okay.
And and again, it's an example of an idea I just got. I wanted to make a female gang, so why not? I put 5 or 6 different miniatures together. I got them, painted them, and then they are already in some of my videos, but maybe in the future they'll have their own uh, campaign or something like that. So it is from different places, yeah. And I use board game. That's another aspect.
Mm.
If I need a demon somewhere, I'm looked through my board games, and if I can find a miniature that fits the role, well, I'll just take that one. I don't have to buy, or it doesn't have to be from somewhere particular.
Well, you did mention that you got started early on with board games. You played Zombicide, so you've already got plenty of zombie miniatures to work with.
Yeah. That's zombies and wolves, and I've used the heroes, for example, in the or the not undead in Zombicide. I have used some of them as well in Age of Fantasy, for example. So
Okay. Yeah, I for a time when Warlord Games they didn't have it for very long, but they created Project Z, and I'm a huge fan of zombie themed games. I played Zombicide, I loved Project Z, but then Warlord Games just kind of killed it. They gave it a couple years and then they abandoned it. And I was just starting to get into it. So it was kind of sad. But now I have all these, they're zombies, but they're very modern. Like they're wearing business suits and swimming suits. And it's like, I can't use those in a fantasy setting. And they look kind of out of place in Grimdark Future. So it's like, what am I supposed to do with them now?
yeah,
But so I get you on that.
yeah,
Um,
that's right. There are always miniatures that you really have a hard time fitting in.
yeah.
Yeah,
So tell me about this the one series on your channel that really caught my attention. I haven't watched too many of the videos, but the whole game in your pocket. I thought that was really interesting. Most of them look obviously card game, and you also you had that very tiny version of Death Ball. So what made you decide to do this game in your pocket series, and are they all card games or do they have smaller like maybe dice games or something that you could do on that as well?
I have small dice games as well. I have again a list of games that I can look at, but for now they are mostly card games. And the next one I think I'm coming up with is a card game played entirely in your hand, so you don't even
Oh,
have to have a table. And again, the idea is to find games to enhance your gaming experience where you don't have to have the space or a lot of time, and that you can fit in your pocket and
okay.
take with you. That is, for me, it's something you can do instead of having your smartphone in your hand and playing games when you are in the bus or you're waiting somewhere 10 minutes. So if you have one of these small game in your pockets, you can bring that and play it in your work break, for example. Well,
What a
I don't.
novel idea. Find something other than your phone for entertainment.
Yeah,
My goodness.
exactly.
Okay. So let's yeah. No, that's great. Let's see. What was I gonna? Oh, are most of those the game in your pocket? Are they mostly solo? Are they can be solo or multi? Um, talk little bit about that.
Yeah, so solo is what I look for solo mostly. Some
Mostly
of them
solo.
can be played, some of them can be played co-op or two players as well. But the solo part is essential for me.
Right. Right.
That's where I start. It has to be a solo game, and if it can be played with others, then it's fine. But solo is it's the way I look, or the
Okay.
what I look for. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Now, when you play one page rules, like when you're doing your battle reports, do you do you use the AI rules for the other team, or do you try and actively play chess against yourself, so to speak?
I have three different methods actually.
Oh,
Yeah, I have the one you mentioned where I just play both sides and try to do it as good as I can. I do that sometimes. Death Ball, for example, that's an example of where I do that. And but I have some printed cards that I use for random activation. So I take the aspect of a thinking brain out of the game, but I add the aspect of completely unpredictable activation. And sometimes I beat myself doing that. So what in some of the videos you will see me playing one of the sides and 100% AI controlled the other part. And I have an activation chart also that I made myself. I know there is one already, but I have it's not complex or anything, but it takes some other aspects into consideration. It's not just shoot, move, or attack, though there are other options as well. But usually, I think it takes too much time. So I usually stop when I activate uh, a miniature on the other side than the one I play myself, and then I'll do the best with that activation. Sometimes I will think it makes no sense to activate that miniature at all, but
Mm.
sometimes I'm surprised because something happened and I'll lose. And the final method I have is to bring in my. I have three daughters. I have no sons. I have three daughters, and two of them are living at home still. And I bring in one of them, and they decide what to do and roll the dice, and I might give them a little advice when we play, but it also adds an aspect of something I can't predict.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So, let's see. What was I going to ask? Oh, have you tried then playing a game of Age of Fantasy Quest? Since that is, I mean, that's totally. You could do that with a group, or you could absolutely do that solo. Have you played around with that at all yet?
Oh, I haven't. I downloaded the rulebook last week, and but as I said, I was on vacation, so I haven't really looked into it yet. But it's definitely something I would look into. Uh, I think when I have the time, yeah.
Because I've played only a couple games of it, and the AI it provides a nice foundation for it, but I definitely think that like how you went in with Death Ball and kind of cleaned a few things, tidied a few things, like kind of rounded it out. I would be very curious to see what you could do with that because the as you said the AI rules for Quest they're pretty simplistic. It's basically if you can see it, trying to shoot it or charge it, and that's it.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I mean might work, but for a channel that devotes itself to a lot of the solo kind of gameplay, I'd be very curious your take on it because I've looked at it as play it as a group. You and three or four friends get together and you're basically you're running this game almost like a mini D&D adventure. But I'd be
Mm.
very curious to get the perspective of a solo version of it. So I'd be curious
Yeah,
to see if you ever do a battle report. I would look forward to that.
I have it on my list to check it out, and I don't know that much about it yet, so I haven't got any ideas of how to improve it
Mm.
if I can. But
Well,
I think
yeah, since you played the skirmish, it's very much just skirmish, but more not one-sided isn't the word, but like you said, it's almost like skirmish. Only one side's more powerful, and the other side's completely randomly determined as to what they're going to do. But I think, given what I've seen for how you run your videos and your battle reports, I think it's absolutely tailor made for your style. Because I've got to say, you have beautiful board setups. I love that you even have the background, the little backdrop, the screen going around. So it's like the viewer is completely immersed in it. In the background, there's cliffs or forests, and then you have all the terrain set up and everything. So I did a really nice job on those. So I'd be very
thank you.
curious to see what you could do. I know when I watch other bat reps that occasionally you can see stuff in the background. It's not super distracting. And I tried to do a game once with a screen and filming it with the free camera, it's a nightmare. Trying to reach over it and move, it just it didn't work very well. But that's neither here nor there.
I
Uh,
think it's about finding out what can work, and I have a very limited play area, and I think it gives the experience of being closer to the action and also being, as you say, you are in the action. If you don't watch, I don't know, something, a lamp or a painting in the background, but
right.
well,
Yeah. Or there's some I saw where the person's cat was just crawling around, climbing around the background, and it was so distracting. I don't know why, but you're sitting there watching this cat rather than watching the actual game. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just easily distracted. That's entirely possible. So then, yeah. So one thing I did notice is since all of your videos you do one page rules, you do Death Wizards, you have many of these games that not a lot of people have heard of or played, and yet I did notice that your logo for your channel is a Primaris Marine. So is it like do you still are you still big into collecting and painting 40K stuff? Like why'd you pick that as the face of your channel, so to speak? And do you plan on doing any GW stuff other than Blood Bowl?
I filmed a battle report of Space Hulk, and I love Space Hulk, but
Oh,
it's hard to keep. short, and I think I'm a little afraid to introduce Games Workshop stuff because I'm not a religious guy when it comes to one-page rules and Games Workshop, but I know some people are, and
People are.
I might scare somebody away if I suddenly start doing Games Workshop games. I don't know. It
Okay.
might be my imagination, but I have a complete Space Hulk battle report, and it's fun to film, it's fun to play, and I also managed to keep it about half an hour. But maybe I will go that way. I don't know, but yeah, I have a lot of 40k miniatures, and the one in particular in the logo is actually. I think it's about 30 or 40 centimeter size
Okay.
Space Marine. So because I collect action figures in several sizes. I have Space Marines, huge Space Marines as well. But it could easily have been a Predator or an Alien or anything else.
It just happened to be that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. and,
Well,
and
that's
and I think about what can I do with the logo? What can I do with the channel? Should I change the name? Should I change the logo? But yeah, I haven't done so far. So
now I think when I wanted to start mine, I sat there a long time and thought, okay, I don't want to have to change anything. So I want to make sure that from the get-go, I got a little icon that I like and a name that I like. And so that was actually part of the reason it took me so long to, once I decided I wanted to start a channel and filming stuff, before I actually did it, I wanted to make sure all my ducks were in a row. And that was one thing that took a really long time to do. Speaking to, you have an interesting comment that you didn't want to bring in 40K in the fear that it might drive away viewers and think, oh no, he's selling out or he's going that route or what have you.
he sold his soul now.
Right. What's really fascinating is at first I was more than willing to sell my soul. So I actually uploaded, because I wanted to do all kinds of games. And so I uploaded several painting tutorials and some battle reports. And then I put up a 40K battle report, hoping to get some people to the channel to see the 40K and then introduce them to one-page rules.
Oh yeah, a nice plan.
Well, and the thing is, nobody watched it. Like the two 40K battle reports, I think, are two of the lowest viewed bat reps. It's like the people who came to the channel, they wanted to see one-page rules, and when they saw a 40K bat rep, they're like, I'm not interested in that. It didn't drive them away. It just didn't exist. It was ethereal to them, I guess.
Yeah,
So
but that
no, go ahead.
yeah, I don't know. It could be, yeah, if you expect content on a channel and you suddenly get something else, it could go either way, I guess. And sometimes I also have a really hard time at finding out or predicting how many are interested in this particular video. Why do I make a video about a report, Grimdark Future something, and it's viewed by thousands of people, and a couple of months later I do more or less the same, and then 300 or 400 stops by,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know why, but I know there are algorithms, and I'm not an expert, but sometimes it's hard to find out why some videos are really popular and others are not.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I did the same thing first. Grimdark Future report that I did, very, very popular. And so I thought, okay, well, let's do another one similar to it, not the same armies, but close. And that one just didn't take off much at all. And so I'll try, okay, well, what if I do this or do that? And I suppose maybe I'm changing too many variables too fast, and rather than pinning down the one that works. But I get that. I try and use the community page, like polling and stuff, and just ask the viewers, like, hey, what do you guys think? Do you like the stationary camera, or do you want the moving camera, or do you want to see more Grimdark Future, or do you want to see more Age of Fantasy? So I don't want the channel to be 100% democratic and I just do what the viewers say, but I definitely want some input from them.
I
And
think
as
I
you mentioned,
know.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I think the viewers of my channel, they are usually interested in new stuff I do, and that I appreciate that. Most of my first videos in something, Death Wizards, for example, World of Tanks, I've done 2 videos. I'm coming up with a third one soon. But most of my first episode videos are typically very well received. and I appreciate that, because then you give it a chance, and when the second one comes, well, somebody likes it, somebody has seen enough. But as long as the first one can get attention, and I think that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. Now, how often do you think you get a chance? Well, do you think, how often do you get to try out a new game? Do you say to yourself one a month? Do you just play a game until you maybe get a little bored with it or something else? Like you said, you have that list. So what's your plan for working through the list?
I have no plan really. It's it's about how much time I've got, and it's very different with a full-time job and a
Mhm.
family and other hobbies as well. I am a musician, so I also
Oh,
produce music. So sometimes it's all about music, sometimes it's all about Xbox, and sometimes it's about new games, and mostly new games at the moment. And it's been for a couple of years. It's been the primary thing I do. But I have no plan. I don't have a goal that I have to get a new game or try out a new game every month or something like that. But I watch videos. I try to follow some of the videos and pages where new games are introduced. But it could also easily be an old game I just haven't noticed yet.
right. It's a new game to you, not
Yeah,
necessarily a new game. Have you, so if you're a musician, have you ever taken any music and used it in your battle reports? Is anything, kind of cross-pollinated your hobbies?
yeah, I have. Um, the Some of the intros or background music for the videos are my own music. The new, not the first, but the new Death Ball theme is one of my songs. So it's just
Oh, cool.
10 or 12 seconds of it, but it's I took first introduction or intro song to Death Ball somewhere, and then I was hit by. You can't use that on YouTube, and yeah, I can use it, but I won't get any
Yeah.
payment or anything from it. So I think I'll have to make it. I have to do something on my own. So
Yeah.
mostly it's just background music, the Age of Fantasy and Age of Fantasy skirmish battle reports, mostly where I fool around with something, and it's in the background.
No, I mean, that's incredible. I would love to be able to do something like that. I'm not totally musically inclined. I can keep a beat, but that's about it. Um, I don't know if you recall, there was an old 40K channel. I don't think they're still making videos. Maybe they are, but they were called Grim Resolve. And he did a lot of his own music as well. And I was super impressed that he films these really good battle reports, but all the music in it was his own stuff as well. So if you can do that, man, my hat's off to you.
Yeah, yeah. But again, it takes time to
Does.
do if you want to. So, but yeah, I think there could be a future goal to make this very polished, super cinematic style battle report with special effects and homemade music and all that. But I say to myself, in the end, is the action better?
Hmm.
The overall experience, is that improving a lot if you do it? Sometimes it is. I have a few special effects in some of my videos, but it's not in any way advanced. I see other channels exploring the AI drawings and music and even AI voices as well. And yeah, a little is cool, I guess, but it can be too much. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not saying that I won't use any of that in the future. But in the end, it has to be the action, the content. That's the
Yeah.
most
For a
important thing.
side, for since this is, I mean, this channel isn't your full time job, so the focus is get out good battle reports that are fun to watch. If they don't have special effects and all that stuff, leave that to the folks who do this full time and make a heck of a lot more money doing it
Yeah,
than we
yeah.
do. I'm
It's
absolutely
pretty
there.
it's pretty far from being a full time job.
Yeah.
And now I suddenly remember the third of my goals, and that was that I want to have a story behind the battle reports. So
Yes.
the time and the camera and then the story. I really
Yes.
like a good story. I don't have to waste 5 or 10 minutes telling a story, but just a little bit of background and a little bit of setting, an excuse to have the battle. I like that.
Right. Exactly. A reason for it. And a reason why the board is set up the way it is. Like when you had one of the ones I was watching where it was, you had the undead attacking like a fortified elven village. So obviously in a regular game, that's totally lopsided. The elf side had a palisade and a wall, and they had cover and all this stuff. You can't do that in a competitive game because the emphasis is on balance and making the board absolutely symmetrical. So same thing as you. I want there to be a reason why this battle's going. Not necessarily not vested interest, but I'm impressed just the fact that you give your characters names. Like to me, that's the level of narrative. I think you don't have to come up with a whole backstory and tell your viewer where they were born and their favorite color and everything, but just this idea of this model represents a character. This character has a goal. These are the other characters, and the game becomes a lot more immersive. That's what really draws me to the tabletop wargaming, is playing out stories rather than matching general wits against each other.
I completely agree. I like to watch that myself, and I also get that in the comments where people comment and on the names, and they follow the characters from one bad report to the other and see what happens to them. So I think at least my viewers appreciate the character development between battle reports as well.
Indeed. Well, believe it or not, we have actually come to close to the end of our time here. So everyone who's been listening, if you are into good narrative battle reports, smaller scale, battle reports you could fit in your pocket, so to speak, 20 to 30 minute things, definitely check out ULC Battle Reports. I'll put a link to it down below. And then before we call it a day here, any last comments, words of wisdom, anything to leave on?
Ooh, words of wisdom.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for that. No, it's been a pleasure to be here and have this conversation. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully other people will enjoy the conversation as well. And if they do, take a look at your channel and my channel and find good content. That's
Absolutely.
that's about as wise as it can get.
All right, thanks everybody. So until next time, keep your dice on the table, and we'll see you then.